Vashishyati. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we were discussing the first verse of Ishavasya Upanishad. The Shanti Mantra we discussed. The first verse is Ishavasyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bunjithaha magritaha kasyasve dhanam. Meaning in short is idam sarvam, whatever is there jagatyam, in this world, in this or whatever worlds are there, wherever what we call nama, rupa, name, form and activity, any kind of activity is there. All that has to be covered by Isha. Isha is the Tritiya Vibhakti, instrumental sense. So eat is the root. The first case word is eat. Then in the Tritiya, in the instrumental sense, with God, when we say by God, everything has to be covered with God. So the Tritiya Vibhakti comes there. So it becomes Isha. Isha, with everything has to be covered with God. All these names and forms, whatever is changing in this universe, everything is to be covered with God. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. Idam Sarvam means whatever comes within our range of experience. And what is the characteristic of that? It is all unreal, it is constantly changing. So idam means the constantly changing entities that we come across in our life. This is idam, sarva idam, all this. All that has to be covered with God. What is that God? What is the characteristic? It is our own self, our essence of our own self, our very own inner self, and God is not different from that. That example that I gave in the beginning, that the Vedantic concept is Ishvara. When the reality is thought of as the reality of the universe, when the truth is thought of as the reality of the universe, it is called Brahman. When it is thought of as the reality of this body-mind complex, is the Atman. And when it is thought of as the creator, preserver and destroyer of the universe, it is Ishvara. It is the only names are differing. Different names are given from different standpoints, but the entity is always the same. So, by God, all this is to be covered. The God who is our own inner self, who is our real self, all this is to be covered. Yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Whatever is changing in this world, whatever living being we come across in this world is in essence God. That way what we have to do, Tena, through that Tyaga, we should protect ourselves. Through that Tyaga, that is the Tyaga. When we deify, when we say covering everything with God is Tyaga. Tyakta is the word used. Tyakta means that which is given up. But what it should be interpreted as Tyaga. Through that act of giving up, to cover everything with God is the highest act of giving up. And through that act of giving up, you should protect yourself. So Tyaga is the means of protecting ourselves. So Tena Tyagena Bunchitaha. Bunchita means Palayetaha. You should protect yourself. Maghrita Kasyasve Dhanam. And then, if everything is with God, then how can you desire anybody's wealth? Because everything you have already covered with God. This is the highest ideal of Vedas and Vedanta and Upanishads is told here. So here that Swamiji had told, I had discussed already, but something more I will tell regarding it. Give up the world which you have conjectured, because your conjecture was based upon a very partial experience. upon very poor reasoning and upon your own weakness. Now the conjecture was based upon a very partial experience, it was told. What is partial experience? Some examples, illustrations are there. Why this word has to be given up? Because one of the reasons is it is based upon a very partial experience. Now, Thakur's one, Sri Ramakrishna's one parable is there. Story is there in the gospel. There was one farmer who was very retiring and contemplative in his nature. One day his son dies and his wife, then after his son dies, he's doing his work in the fields when somebody comes and tells him his son has died. So he does not give way to a display of sorrow or anything. He simply hears the news and slowly returns to his home. And he acts very normal. Not grief-stricken. Normally grief-stricken people, it is normal only. Crying and all. He does not give way to that. He behaves in a very, as if nothing has happened, he is behaving. Then his wife becomes very angry and says, your only son has died and you are not showing any emotion or anything. What a hard-hearted person you are. Then he tells one something that, you see, yesterday when I was sleeping, I had a dream. And in the dream, I had 14 or 15 children or something. Exact number I don't remember. Each of them died. So I lost, and now whom should I grieve for? Should I grieve for those 15 children who died in my dream, or for that one child I lost now? Now this story reflects a great Vedantic truth, that for the spiritual person, all experiences are equally real, whether it is dream or whether it is waking or whether it is deep sleep. For the normal person, what we say is normal. The waking state experience is real. The dream and sleep states are, as long as they invigorate us and help us in our working state activities, they are worthwhile. Otherwise, they don't have any worth. But according to Vedanta, they take the whole experience, what is called Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. Everything is taken into account. No experience, everything is analyzed with equal intensity. The same analytical mind is applied to all experiences, whether they be the experience of dream, of sleep, or of waking. So that is what it is based upon, a very partial experience. Like this farmer, his experience, he is giving equal importance to his dream experience also. He is not saying that the waking experience is more real than the dream state experience. He is giving equal importance to all experiences. And if one is real, the other is also real, and if the one is unreal, the other is also unreal. This is correct reasoning. And that is what the next is upon very poor reasoning. One is partial experience, and the next hetu is poor reasoning. What is poor reasoning? Poor reasoning is what Swamiji says. He gives the example of, in his book Raja Yoga, he gives the example of whirlpools being formed in water. He says that different whirlpools are formed. We think they are units, but if we analyze, we will find that nothing constant remains in those whirlpools. Water is continuously going in and coming out. The external form of the whirlpool remains, as it were, but nothing is a constant in them. That appearance of constancy is actually a delusion, because the water particles are continuously going in and coming out. It is continuously changing. Like that, our individuality also, Swamiji says, is like that. It is continuously changing. Even physically, it seems within a few hours, our body is continuously being renewed and refreshed and renewed. So, materially also, our thoughts are also constantly changing. Then what do we call an individual? When we say I, who is the referendum of this I? This body, but it is continuously changing. At the same time, we feel that there is something unchanging within us. And this is what is told in the Brahma Sutras, that the referendum of the I is the unchanging consciousness, and the referendum of the you is the constantly changing body, mind, etc. The problem is, this is logic. This is what logic tells us, that the I as consciousness is unchanging, and the thou as what is superimposed in consciousness is constantly changing. And we are mixing up both. The properties of the I, which is what? That it is eternal, that it is blissful. All these things, we are mixing it up with the body. We say that the body, we think that the body is eternal. That we will live for it. That this physical body will go on for hundreds and hundreds of years. We think like that. And the same with that is what the properties of the self is confused with the body-mind complex, and the properties of the body-mind complex, that is the non-eternality, the destructibility of that also we superimpose on the self and imagine that the self may end. That fear comes out of that. So this is poor reasoning. We mix up both. The properties of the I is mixed up with the thou. That which is the referendum of the I, consciousness, is mixed up with the referendum of the thou. So, this is poor reasoning. And then the last part is, and our own weaknesses. Our own weaknesses, our own attachments. So, this much is told here. Now, little bit I will read that commentary of Shankara. It goes like this. Srimad Shankara Bhagavatpada Acharya Vidachitam Bhashyam Ishavasyam Ityadayo Mantraha Karmasu Aviniyuktaha Tesham Akarma Sheshasya Atmano Yadhatmya Prakashagatvat. That is the mantra beginning with Ishavasyam Ityadayo Mantraha. Ityadayaha Mantraha. The mantras beginning with the words Isha, Vasyam, etc. What are these mantras for? Karmasu Aviniyuktaha. They have got no reference to actually rites and rituals. Now here, it has to be. Why it has no reference to the rites and ritual? Because they are not a part of rites and rituals, and their purpose is to highlight the true nature of the Atman or the Self, the unchanging nature of the Atman or the Self. Now, according to what is called the ritualistic portion of the Vedas, which is called the Karma Kanda, which says that a man has to perform sacrifices to gain heavens, etc. According to them, they have got what is called, for instance, the 4 preliminaries are to be fixed. For instance, why should we study any particular text? This has to be fixed before we start the study of the text itself. So that is why if you are studying physics, you just take up any text and read. No, there is a specific reason for studying that text. So that 4 reasons are told here for taking up study of any text. One is Adhikari, Vishaya, Sambandha and Prayojana. This can be put in English like who. When we say Adhikari is for whom is the text meant? That is adhikari. Who? So now, with reference to this sacrifices, for whom is it meant? It is meant for one who identifies himself with this body and mind. This is a taken, this is a given. They are not questioning that. I have got this body, I have got this body and mind, and my body is able, I am a quite capable person. I can study, and I have got the strength to do work. And what I want to gain happiness in this world, and also I want to gain physical strength. And they say there is something called Brahma Varchas, means spiritual eminence. If you do good works in this world, even physically you gain something. There is a kind of spiritual radiance comes to you. This is not about Vedanta only, about any kind of, because sacrifices, rites and rituals are also spiritual work only in one sense. Only it is selfishness is there, that's the only difference. In Vedanta it is nishkama, that is without any desires you are doing work. But here also the work is spiritual. You want to gain heaven. A person wants to goes to temple with some purpose in view, that I want to gain this, I want to gain some material gain I want to achieve in this life. With that purpose also you can do what is called spiritual works or spiritual sadhana. So here, what is told here is when you do yagas, rites and rituals, even with selfish motive, you gain something called Brahma Varchas, spiritual eminence. And when you die, you gain heaven. This is their view. So the adhikari here is, for whom is this meant? Who is capable of doing work, who is capable of understanding these things, who has got the material. Of course, he requires money also to buy the different articles meant for sacrifices. So money is, or he should be capable, or he should have he should have possessions also, money also, the wherewithal also to carry out all these sacrificial activities. So that is the adhikari. Now next is who. We told the who. Then is what is the subject matter. Who and what. What is the subject matter of this text? Is rites and rituals. The different rites and rituals, there's a different kinds of rites and rituals are mentioned. So that is what is, so the main subject matter of Vedas is according to this karma kandins, those who follow the sacrificial portion, is that it is rites and rituals, different injunctions, different vidhis, injunctions to perform, do this, do that. That is a characteristic of this Vedas. It asks us to do this activity or that activity, this sacrifice or that sacrifice, what is called, different names are given. Darsha Purnamasa sacrifice, Soma Yaga, different sacrifices are. So, these sacrifices and different activities are given. This is the what of it. Who, for whom is this meant? For whom is it meant? Then, what is the subject matter of this? The subject matter is rites and rituals. Then who, what, next is Vishaya, Adhikari Vishaya. Then Prayojana. Why is it done? Why are the sacrifices done? To gain heaven. You want to gain rare forms of happiness. You don't want any misery. This world is full of misery. I don't want it. I want to go to a place where there is no misery. So, that is what the Prayojana is, happiness, Swarga. Through this yaga, you will gain Swarga. The belief is that after you perform sacrifices, something called adrishta, unseen effect, emerges out of these sacrifices. And this unseen effect will stay in one place. It is like a fixed deposit that you are given. Your karma remains. It may not bear fruit when you are living in this world, but when you die, this unseen adrishta or unseen effect bears fruit, and that will take you to heaven, and you will enjoy heaven, and you will be in heaven and enjoy heavenly pleasures. Then when the punya is exhausted, when that is adrishta is exhausted, dharma is exhausted, again you have to come back to the world, again you have to take birth, again you perform sacrifices. That is their view. So that is the why. Why should we perform it? To gain heaven. Then the last is sambandha. What is the how does it happen? How does the perusal of study of these texts, how does the study of these texts lead to the attainment of heaven? How the performance? How the text reveals the subject matter? So that is the how of it, the sambandha of it, bodhya bodhaga bhavaha. The bodhaga is the text, and the bodhya is the knowledge that is gained, the knowledge that we put into practice, and thus perform sacrifices, and thus bring the sacrifices to a fruition, fruition. How it actually brings into effect the sacrifice. So these are the 4 things that the Karma Kandins say. One adhikari, for whom is it meant? It is one who is capable of performing these sacrifices. One. Then what is the subject matter is do's and don'ts. In short, we say the subject matter of Vedas is do this, don't do that. That's all. That is Vishaya. And what is the Prayojana is Swarga. You attain heaven, heavenly pleasures you enjoy. And in this world you will also get, in this world to get prosperity and all, there are sacrifices. So to get cattle, land, children, there are sacrifices to get children. That sacrifices are there. So that is Adhikari Vishaya Prayojana. The Prayojana is Swarga, and then who, what, why and how. Sambandha is how. How do we carry out these instructions into practice? That also the Vedas teaches. Now, according to the Karma Kandins, the whole of the Vedas has these 4 purposes only, these 4 things only, preliminaries. That is, it is meant for one who is capable of doing sacrifices. And so this mantra also is like that only. What is it? What does it do? This mantra, it is meant for the karta. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. So it doesn't speak of any swarga or anything, but the Mimamsakas will interpret it in this way, that it is meant to boost the karta. It is meant to give it's a moral booster to the karta. You see, any work in order to perform, the sense of agency should be there. That the kartrutva bodha should be there. That I exist as the agent of work. This should be there. And that I is strengthened when you say this mantra, Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. When you repeat it like a japa or something, the I will get so much strength, and it will with so much vigor it can involve itself in activities. This is what they say. It doesn't have any separate adhikari. And Vishaya is the same. It is meant for yagas only. It is meant for going to heaven only. And that is all. This is what they say. But Vedanta say here, make a departure. They say no. The adhikari Vishaya Sambandha Prayojana is different from Vedanta. And this text is a Vedantic. The subject matter of this text is Vedantic. Not the Purva connected with the Karma Kanda. We discussed it beforehand that who is the Adhikari? He is the one who wants to know, who wants to dissolve his individuality, who wants to the readiness to sacrifice his individuality. That is the Adhikari of Vedanta. The Adhikari of Karma Kandin is one who is capable of doing work, but the Adhikari of Vedanta is one who is ready to give up his individuality. What Swamiji says, to give up one's own, to give up this miserable little present individuality, to gain this universal individuality, this miserable little present individuality must go. Then alone can death cease, when I am one with life itself. What is death cease? That death is what he means, that what is called Sat, Satchidananda. So then alone can death cease. Asat means what? That which ceases to exist. So then alone can death cease when I am one with life itself. When I become one with the Atman, then I am one with Sat, then there is no more Asat, no more change. Then alone can error cease, when I am one with knowledge itself. Error, that is Chit. The Chit aspect is being described here. Knowledge means Chit, Chaitanya, awareness. When I am one with the Atman is one with awareness. Then there is no more inertness, inertia, everything is once for all vanished. When I am one with knowledge itself, then alone can all miseries cease. When I am one with happiness itself. Then again the Atman is one with bliss, Paramananda. It is Paramananda Swarupa. And when you become one with it, then all dukkha, everything is once for all vanished. It can never touch you again. So, here it is the Adhikari. Adhikari is one who wants to lose his individuality and immerse in the ocean of Satchidananda, Atman, who wants to be identified with the Atman, who wants to commune with the Atman, which is Satchidananda Swarupa. So this is the Adhikari as opposed to the Adhikari of Mimamsa. And what is the Vishaya? The Vishaya is Brahman. That is that which grows and that which helps other things to grow. That also is the reality of our own self. That is the subject matter of what is called the Vedanta. That unchanging reality. But Gita says, which is not subject to any of the 6 kinds of changes that the body and the mind undergoes. What is that? It is born, it exists, asti, jayate, vardhate, viparinamyate, apakshiyate, priyate. Asti, it is jayate, it is born, it exists, jayate, there is a continuity. Asti, vardhate, it increases in size. Viparinamyate, suddenly, after a certain stage, that increase stops. The degeneration begins. Then, apakshiyate, it decays. And vriyate, it dies. It is totally destroyed. These 6 kinds of changes does not touch the Atman. And that Atman can be known only through the Upanishads. And according to the Vedantin, that is the purpose of the Upanishads. That is the higher purpose. All these sacrifices are meant for those who cannot identify themselves with the Atman. In fact, they will say in this verse that there is one, on Shankara Bhashya, there is one Anandagiri Tika. So in that, Anandagiri says there in one place that what is the authority of all these sacrifices? On what these sacrifices, how much authority does this sacrifices have? For instance, it is told that you have to perform all these rites and rituals. Now, if the subject matter of Vedanta alone is true, then those who are performing sacrifices, they are doing something that is totally wrong. Then it is the possibility arises that they don't have any locus standi. That is, they don't have any purpose. That this sacrificial portions becomes false. They don't have any purpose. Then why are they there in the Vedas? Then the whole Vedic text, it puts a question mark on the validity of the entire Vedic text. Because if they don't have any proper purpose, then why are they there in the first place in the text? The answer is that it has got a secondary purpose. The main primary purpose is moksha, to gain the knowledge of the Atman, and thus liberate ourselves from all kinds of bondages. That is the main purpose. But the secondary purpose is that if we don't have this knowledge and we identify ourselves with the body and the mind, then if we perform these sacrifices in the proper manner, a kind of purity comes to our mind, a kind of concentration comes to our mind, with the help of which we can focus our attention on the Vedantic texts, and thus we can liberate ourselves. So all these rites and rituals are meant for those who don't have that maturity of understanding, whose understanding is not that much developed, who still have got desires in them, who still yearn for things of the world. For them, this higher thing is given. You do these things with giving up desire for the fruits, seeing God, that keeping God, for the pleasure of God, you do all these rites and rituals. Then at one stage you will gain a kind of a proper understanding will come to you. A purified form of understanding will come to you, with the help of which you can focus your mind on the spiritual truths that is written in the Upanishads, that it will make you capable of understanding the spiritual truths in the Upanishads. So this maturity of wisdom happens if you perform these rites and rituals in the proper spirit. So this is the connection. So those who do not have that maturity of understanding, who identify themselves with the body and the mind, if they perform these, keeping God in mind, for the sake of God, giving the desire for the fruits of those works, then that is the secondary purpose of this. Now, with reference to this, some 3-4 slokas of the Gita can be quoted. It is coming in the 2nd chapter of the Gita. The shlokas go like this: Yogastha Kuru Karmani Sangam Tyaktva Dhananjaya Siddhya Siddhyoho Samo Bhutva Samatvam Yoga Uchyati. Now he is telling here, now the first Gita says, according to Shankara, in the 2nd chapter, there are 2 convictions are aimed at. One is the conviction of the knowledge of the reality, the knowledge of the Atman, which we told that the Atman is beyond all kinds of changes. The second conviction that is aimed at is those who do not have this conviction of reality. They, in order to gain that conviction, they have to perform work with a certain attitude. That is called Yoga Buddhi. It is called as Yoga Buddhi. And this Yoga Buddhi is described in some verses. Now, this is one of the verses. Yogastha Kuru Karmani. Being established in yoga, you perform all works. Sangam Tyaktva Dhananjaya. Giving up attachment to the results. Now here, Shankara adds, Ishvaro me tushyadu ityavi sangam tyaktva. When you perform works, if you are performing sacrifices, but sacrifices is only an upalakshana, only representative, because it is told that Yajño vai Vishnuhu. Yajna means Vishnu, the all-pervading God. So whatever work you do for God, whatever work you do can be done as an offering to the all-pervading God, Vishnu. Then everything becomes Yajna. So, Yogastha Kuru Karmani. Being established in yoga, you perform all works. Sangam Tyaktva Dhananjayaha, giving up all attachments. And thus Shankara adds, Ishvaro vi tushyadu ityavi sangam Tyaktva. That is, let the God be pleased with me. This also you give up. Now it sounds strange. Why God should not be pleased with us? No, God can be pleased with us, but we should not have that expectation that God should be pleased with us. Because that will be a barrier to the dawning of that Samatva Buddhi, which is told here. Sangam Tyaktva Dhananjaya Siddhya Siddhyoho Samo Bhutva. Be equanimous, be mentally poised in success and failure. Be equanimous in success and failure. Siddhya Siddhyoho Samo Bhutva. What is Siddhi and Asiddhi? Siddhi is what? We perform spiritual sadhanas, we pray to God, all these things. Then we will gain knowledge or spiritual wisdom will come to us. This is Siddhi. And if we don't gain that, it is Asiddhi. Now, both these you give up. You just perform actions for God. See that you have to be Siddhi or Asiddhi. The thought of this that whether I am perfect or not perfect, both these thoughts act as an impediment in the dawning of wisdom. So, Siddhya Siddhyoho Samo Bhutva. Samatva Yoga Uchyate. This Samatva Buddhi is yoga. Two stories can be given here. What Thakur says, Thakur gives, one story is told by Thakur and another is told by Swamiji. It is also told by Thakur. But Swamiji's story is also, I will say it in Swamiji's words. Now, Thakur's story is that there were three robbers who were, not three robbers, sorry, three devotees ended up in a forest. Now, when they ended up in a forest, what happened was they saw a tiger. So, the one devotee told, oh, let us run away. Run away, he told. That is the most mediocre. The lion is there, tiger is there, we will run away from here. Then the second one told, no, there is no use running away, we will pray to God, God will protect us. Then the third one told, why bother God about this? We will climb a tree and try to protect ourselves. Now, Thakur is telling that the person who told to run away, he is the most inferior kind of devotee. He is not aware that there is any spiritual reality in this world. Now, the one who told that we will pray to God, God will protect us, he is the mediocre devotee. That his little bit of faith is there. And who is the superior devotee who told we will climb the tree? His focus on what is to be done and is not to be done is quite clear. Whether God wants to protect us or not, it is God's business. Our duty is to do our own work and surrender the fruit to God. So this is why he is the highest devotee. While the mediocre devotee, he thinks that God will come and protect him, interfere and protect him in the matter. So this is one idea that is told here. Siddhya Siddhyoho Samo Bhutva Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. Another story that Swamiji says is that Narada is going to Vaikuntha. So when he is going, he's walking through a forest or something, and he meets a sage who is meditating. He's meditating, for so many years and years together he's meditating. and his hair has become matted, and all kinds of growths have happened around him. And this man, when Narada meets him, Narada asks him, this man asks him, where are you going? He bows down to Narada, and Narada says he is going to see Vishnu. He is going to the presence of the Lord. Then the saint asks him, he who is meditating, who is doing so much ferocious tapas, austerities he is doing, when you meet God, you please ask him when I will be liberated. Oh yes, I will ask him, he says, and Narada leaves his presence and goes away further. Finally, he meets another saint who is simply dancing in joy. Then he asks him, Narada, why are you asking in joy? Then the saint asks Narada, where are you going? He says, I am going to the presence of Narayana. Then he says, when you meet him, ask him when I will be liberated, whether I will be liberated or not. Then after some days, Narada is again returning by the same path. He meets the first saint, and he asks him, who has gone all jada, matted hair and all growth is happening around him. He meets him, and when that sadhaka sees Narada, he asks him, did you see Narayana? What did he tell? Did he tell you anything about when I will attain liberation? He told that you will attain liberation in 3 births. Then he becomes very upset and angry. I have been doing austerities for so many years and years together, and still I have to pass 3 years to get liberation. And he becomes so angry, he gets away and goes away from that place. He becomes irritated and goes away from that place. Then Narada proceeds further and he meets that second saint who was dancing, and he is still dancing. Then that saint asks Narada, did you pass on did you meet Narayana? What did Narayana tell about me? When will I be liberated? Then Narada says, as there are leaves in that tree, after that many lives you will be liberated. And that man becomes even more happy and blissful, and he starts dancing with joy that, I will gain liberation, he says, and starts dancing. Then he hears a voice and says, my son, you have been liberated now. Now here also we find this thing. Siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva. Everything sadhana, everything is doing that. When God wants to give it or when God will be pleased with me, that consideration is not there. You just perform your work, your duty, your sadhana, that is all. So this is one verse. Then the next is Durena Hyavaram Karma Buddhi Yoga Dhananjaya. All this is connected with this. The second, how karma is to be performed. So what Shankara is negating here is what is told here, that these verses are not connected with rites and rituals. That is, these rites and rituals are to be performed with the proper attitude. That is, the proper conception of the self should be there behind these works. Any work that you do should have the proper conception of the self. And it is this proper conception of the self that is aimed at in all these verses that I've been talking about. The proper attitude that should be there behind every work. So this we told, Yogastha Kuru Karmani, then Durena Hi Avaram Karma Buddhi Yoga Dhananjaya Buddhau Sharanam Anvicha Kripana Kalahedavaha. Durena Hi Avaram Karma Buddhi Yoga Dhananjaya. Karma that is done with selfish motive, for one's sake, not for pleasing God. Those kinds of works, that I want to have this thing, that thing, I want that with that attitude. Buddhau Sharanam Anvicha, that is very much inferior. Durena Hi Avaram. Inferior to what? Inferior to that work which is performed with the proper attitude. With the proper attitude of surrender to God. this work is inferior. Work that is performed without the proper attitude of surrender for one's own gain. Buddhi Yoga Dhananjaya Buddhau Sharanam Anvicha. Therefore, you take recourse to the proper attitude. Kripana Phalahedavaha. He who desires the fruits of his own work is Kripana. And it is told there in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, it is told, Yohi Gargi Asmat Lokat Aviditva. Yohi Gargi Edat Atmanam Aviditva Asmat Lokat Praiti Sakripanaha. He who departs from this world without knowing the self is indeed a miser, a Kripana. That is the point. And here also it is told Kripana. Kripana Phala Hetavaha. Because something more precious is waiting for us if we can surrender the fruits of our actions to God and perform actions. So that is why he is called Kripana, he who wants the results of things for himself. He is a Kripana. Then it is told, one more verse is there, Buddhi yukto jahati iha ubhe sukrata dushkrite tasmat yogaya yujyasva yoga karmasu kaushalam. Buddhi yukto. He who is established in Buddhi Yoga, the proper attitude of what is Buddhi Yoga? Surrendering the fruits to God, being equanimous in success and failure, you perform all works. This is Buddhi. This is what is called Buddhi Yoga. Ishwararpana Buddhya. Phalabhisandhi varjidaha, without desire for the fruits of action. Ishwararpana buddhya phalabhisandhi varjidaha siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva. Being equanimous in success and failure, he who performs all works, that attitude is called Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi yukta, what happens to him? Jahati iha ubhe sugrada dushkriti. The good and bad effects of work he gives up here in this world. He does not go to heaven, nor he goes to hell. That is a Sukrita Dushkrita. All the Sukrita and Dushkrita phala he gives up. He doesn't want it. Tasmad Yogaya Yujyasva. Therefore you take resort to yoga. Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam. He says yoga is kushalata in work, is dexterity in work, efficiency in work. Kushalata is given a special meaning by Shankara. Tadhi kushalam. Yad bandha swabhavani api karmani swabhavat nivartante. What is kushala? Works by their nature bind. If it is not done with the proper attitude, works will bind. How does it bind you? It will give you the fruit of that work and you become attached to that fruits. That is how it binds you. So, tadhi kushal bandha swabhavani api karmani swabhavat nivartante. That nature of work to bind, you reverse it by doing work with the proper attitude. So that is kushalata in work. If kushalata is not there, work will bind you. But if with this proper attitude you perform work, then karma becomes kaushala yukta karma. Kushala karma it becomes. It becomes efficiency in work. But efficiency doesn't mean external efficiency. There is an effectiveness in the attitude with which you perform work. Because those works, instead of adding one more strength, adding one more link to the chain that binds you, it breaks one link. It reverses the nature of work that leads to bondage. That bandha swabhavani api karmani swabhavat nivartante. It reverses or it weakens the binding nature of work. It reverses or opposes or breaks the it reverses the nature of work. Work that normally leads to bondage, it reverses that, and thus you break the bonds that bind you, break the link that binds you to the world, that binds you to the samsara. So this is what is called doing work with proper attitude. So this is what is told here. So I think this is enough for today. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.